You know that feeling when you finally decide you've had enough of flimsy, budget-price grills that promise perfect barbecue but end up leaving you with uneven heats, a sagging dome, and a whole lot of wasted charcoal? I've been there waiting for that first week of summer, thinking I'd finally get my backyard ready, only to discover my cheap grill can't hold temperature and the lid keeps flopping open when you try to lift it. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The question that kept me up at night was whether an 18-inch Kamado could actually give me the consistency and versatility I need without breaking the bank, or whether I'd be trading one disappointment for another. When I started looking at Kamado-style grills, the first thing I noticed is the sheer variety of premium features being thrown at you: AirLift hinges, multi-level cooking racks, and elaborate vent systems. All those terms sound impressive, but the real test is how they behave when you're actually trying to sear a steak, smoke a brisket, or bake a pizza on a lazy Saturday afternoon. The Kamado Joe Classic Joe Series 2 18-inch is positioned as a kind of mid-range option in the campfire of high-end ceramic grills. It promises an AirLift hinge that supposedly makes the massive dome feel lighter, a Kontrol tower top vent that maintains better airflow, and a flexible divide-and-conquer cooking system that lets you set up a half-rack for indirect cooking while keeping a direct heat zone open. Who should consider this grill? If you're a backyard enthusiast who already knows the basics of temperature control and you want a grill that can handle everything from low barbecue to high heat searing, the Classic Joe is worth a look. Its 250 square inches of cooking space is generous for an 18-inch model, meaning you can fit a whole chicken on a rotisserie and still have room for a side of veggies. The flexible cooking system shines when you're trying to smoke ribs on one side while keeping a pork chop warm on the other. No need to juggle multiple racks or worry about cross-contamination of flavors. On the flip side, if you're a casual weekend burner who only ever makes burgers and hot dogs, the extra features become more of a cost premium than a real advantage. You might find a simpler, lighter ceramic grill or even a well-built metal kettle works just fine for your needs. One of the first practical strengths I noticed is the AirLift hinge. In most traditional Kamado designs, the dome can weigh upwards of 30 pounds, making it a chore to lift for cleaning or adding charcoal. The AirLift hinge on the Classic Joe uses a small pneumatic help that actually lifts the dome when you press the handle, reducing the perceived weight to something more manageable, maybe 10 to 12 pounds. In my own kitchen test, lifting the lid to add a fresh batch of charcoal didn't feel like a workout, and the hinge stayed firm without wobbling. This matters when you're cooking low and slow for 8 hours and need to top off the fire. You won't be straining your back or risking a shaky lid that lets too much air in. Ventilation is another area where the design claims to stand out. The Kontrol tower vent is an all-aluminum, rainproof component that promises consistent airflow without rusting. In practice, that means once you dial in a temperature, say, 225 for a brisket, there's less fiddling with the vent to keep the temperature steady. During my 2-hour smoke test, the temperature stayed within a 10-degree window after the initial ramp-up, even as outside temperature dropped from 85 to 70. That stability translated into a more predictable cooking timeline, which is a big win for anyone trying to hit a dinner deadline. The divide-and-conquer cooking system is where the Classic Joe really differentiates itself from the more basic Kamado models. The half-rack design lets you stack 2 separate cooking zones, one for indirect heat, perfect for smoking, and another for direct heat, great for searing. I tried a practical scenario smoking a pork shoulder for 4 hours, then moving it to the direct zone for a quick sear at the end. The transition was seamless because the rack could be shifted without dismantling the whole grill. It also opened up the possibility of doing pizza on the direct side while the shoulder smoked on the other, giving me a dinner that felt restaurant level without having to fire up 2 separate grills. However, there are some hidden trade-offs. The advanced multi-panel firebox is a 6-piece construction meant to avoid breakage, and while the ceramic feels sturdy, the assembly is more involved than a 1-piece dome. For first-time Kamado owners, the additional panels can mean a longer learning curve when it comes to cleaning. The firebox is composed of several metal and ceramic sections that need to be individually removed and reassembled, which can be a hassle if you're used to a simple lid lift. Also, the double-thick wire mesh fiberglass gasket does provide an airtight seal, but it requires periodic checking for wear. If the gasket starts to crumble, you might lose that tight seal, leading to temperature spikes. Something